Read it secretly later.
My 8-year-old grandson threw raw garbage at my house. As we passed each other, he whispered that into my ear. What does that mean? My husband had passed away, and I, who was wheelchair-bound, picked up the bag with great effort. From the torn part, an old notebook fell out. No way, this can't be true. As soon as I opened it, I was left speechless. The contents were unimaginably terrifying. If things continue like this. Having made a certain decision, I immediately took action. I married Barney, 3 years my senior, when I was 25, and we spent 40 years together. We never had any major quarrels and lived peacefully. Our only son, Zion, was a reserved child who used to draw and write stories in a notebook when he was little. He married Margot, a researcher at a pharmaceutical company, when he was 28, and now he's the father of an 8-year-old boy, Skylar. Since his busy wife couldn't always take care of their child, Zion often looked after him, which I found admirable. One day, Zion came to me saying he had something to discuss.
I'm thinking of quitting my job and becoming independent.
Zion had joined a relatively large company as a new graduate, and we, his parents, felt relieved by this, so we were taken aback by his words. Isn't your current job fulfilling?
That's right. Running a company is tough.
We both opposed it, but we had our reasons. My husband, Barney, had also become independent when he was young, but he failed due to an economic downturn. Having experienced such hardships, Barney naturally didn't want Zion to take such risks. And having endured those hardships together, I didn't want my daughter-in-law or grandson to suffer either. We repeatedly tried to persuade Zion that it was better to continue working as a company employee until retirement, but Zion's resolve was firm.
I want to take on the challenge.
Seeing our son's eyes shine as he spoke, we couldn't say anything more and decided to support him. However, about 6 months later, Zion came to visit with a gloomy expression and apologetically asked for money.
The company isn't taking off, and I'm having trouble with finances.
Our worst fears had come true, and my husband and I looked at each other and sighed.
I don't want Margot and Skylar to go hungry. Please, Mom and Dad.
Hearing that, we had no words to respond. Though we knew it might be spoiling him, we lent him the money with the promise that it would be a one-time thing. After that, he didn't ask for anything more, so we thought his company had finally stabilized and felt relieved. A while after that incident, we planned a trip together. We had promised each other long ago to travel to various places after retirement, and we finally decided to make it happen. It's like a dream to be able to travel leisurely like this.
I've been too busy with work to take a long break until now.
We plan to visit several tourist spots over a few weeks, with Barney driving. It's nice to have something to look forward to even as an adult. The night before the trip, we were too excited to sleep, like children before a field trip. And on the day of the trip, Zion and his family came to see us off.
Have a great time.
Thank you. We'll bring you some souvenirs.
Oh, I got some good coffee beans, so I brewed some for you. Enjoy it in the car.
With a smile, I accepted the thermos he handed me and set off with my husband. After the car had been driving for a while, I started to feel drowsy, having not slept well the previous night. I felt bad for my husband, who was driving, and tried to stay awake, but I couldn't help but feel sleepy.
I'm fine with the coffee. I'll wake you up when we arrive, so rest until then.
Okay. Thank you. I'll sleep for a bit then. Trusting Barney's words, I drifted into sleep. I'm not sure how much time had passed. What? I was jolted awake by a loud bang and then lost consciousness. When I opened my eyes again, I saw a white ceiling above me. And when I turned my head, I saw my son and his family.
Mom!
Zion called out to me with a worried expression. Next to him, my daughter-in-law and grandson were in tears. It seemed our car had been in an accident, and we were taken to the hospital. Where's your dad? I looked around but couldn't see Barney, so I asked my son. But they didn't answer, and from their expressions, I felt an indescribable unease. Is he badly injured? When I asked fearfully, Margot covered her mouth with her hand, holding back tears, and Zion looked down. Hey! Where is he? Take me to him now.
He's gone.
What? I can't hear you.
Dad has passed away.
Zion's unexpected words struck me like a bolt from the blue. I felt as if the world had gone completely dark. According to Zion, the lack of brake marks suggested that Barney had likely fallen asleep at the wheel, causing the accident. If I hadn't fallen asleep and kept talking to him, this might not have happened. Overwhelmed by regret, I realized that Barney would never come back. I wanted to see Barney's face and tried to sit up, but my whole body was in pain, and I couldn't move as I wished. I couldn't even feel my right leg.
Mom, you're badly injured too. Leave Dad's matters to us.
The doctor in charge told me that due to the aftereffects of the accident, it might be difficult for me to walk in the future. The sadness of losing my husband and the frustration of not being able to move as I wanted left me feeling utterly lost. After being hospitalized for a while, I managed to be discharged a month later. Back home, I had to live in a wheelchair, so we renovated the house for easier living and hired a visiting helper. Despite the inconvenience, I managed to get by. Zion, who lived nearby, and his wife often checked on me, especially Zion. Although I felt lonely without my husband, thanks to them, I was able to live calmly. One day, Zion brought Skylar over to visit. It had been a while since my grandson, who was always busy with lessons and friends, came to our house since Barney passed away. Skylar, thank you for coming. But even when I spoke to him, he wouldn't meet my eyes or greet me. Not only that, he seemed restless, looking around everywhere. What's wrong? When I merely asked that, Skylar glared at me as if I were an enemy.
Shut up. It's none of your business, Grandma.
What?
I only came to offer incense. I hate you, Grandma. I wish you had died instead of Grandpa.
Barney indeed loved Skylar very much, but his words were a shock to me.
Hey, Skylar. Don't say such things.
Zion immediately scolded him and apologized, but I was deeply hurt. Why? The atmosphere turned sour, and Zion stood up.
We're leaving.
Ah, thank you. As I went to see them off in my wheelchair, Skylar turned around outside and threw a bag of raw garbage at my house. It happened so quickly that I was too shocked to speak. Seeing Zion, who was watching Skylar while heading to the parking lot, rush back, I braced myself, thinking he might throw something again. But Skylar squatted down and picked up a stone from the ground. Instead of throwing it, he leaned slightly towards me.
Read it secretly later,
he said quickly and threw the stone a short distance away. Then, taking his father's hand, he said,
Forget about Grandma. Let's go home.
and pulled Zion into the car. Not understanding Skylar's actions, I decided to clean up and picked up the garbage bag with great effort. The bag tore, and an old notebook fell out from the trash. Could this be what Skylar meant for me to read? I slowly opened the notebook, unsure, and saw terrifying contents written inside. Terrified, I immediately decided to flee and hurried back to my room. As I was preparing to leave, my phone rang. That call made me understand the meaning behind my grandson's actions. Unforgivable. Seeking cooperation from the caller, I decided to take action. 3 days later, I contacted my son. Hello, Zion? I think I should go into a facility. As soon as my son picked up, I told him this.
Huh? Why?
It's lonely living alone, and there are other things on my mind.
What are you talking about? I'll come over right now, and we can talk about it.
Without waiting for my reply, Zion hung up the phone abruptly. Less than 30 minutes later, he arrived at my house. He stormed into the house, shouting, "Mom," and plopped down on the sofa in front of me.
You absolutely can't go to a facility.
Why are you so against it?
I hate the idea of abandoning you. I'll take care of you, so please reconsider.
Zion looked at me with a serious expression, trying desperately to persuade me. But I shook my head. I can't do that. I'm scared to live alone.
Why? You've managed so far, and I'll support you even more from now on.
No matter how I responded, he wouldn't back down, determined not to let me go into a facility. I put on a troubled expression and looked Zion straight in the eyes. Listen, I think my life might be in danger. I just want to take refuge in a safe place.
What?
He looked genuinely shocked, his eyes wide open. But then he quickly composed himself.
If there's someone threatening you, I'll protect you.
He pounded his chest confidently. Do you think you can do that?
Of course I can. So, can we drop this topic now?
Zion exhaled a sigh of relief and leaned back against the sofa. But when he saw my still tense expression, he called out to me again, "Mom." The person threatening my life is you, Zion. How could you protect me? Staring directly at him, I conveyed this. After a brief moment, he retorted with an irritated tone, "What are you talking about? It's the truth, isn't it? You're defensive because I've hit a nerve."
I would never do that to my own parent. Enough already.
He became even more enraged, stood up from the sofa, and confronted me. I inched my wheelchair forward, glaring at him without breaking eye contact. You killed your father, didn't you?
That was an accident because Dad fell asleep at the wheel. It's a miracle no one else was hurt.
Don't change the subject.
It's disgusting to accuse your own child without evidence.
He was spitting and gesturing wildly in his desperate defense. I held out an old, worn notebook to him. When he saw it, I didn't miss the slight twitch in Zion's eyebrows. I think you know what this is. This is the evidence.
What are you talking about? I don't know anything about that.
He tried to feign ignorance, but I opened the notebook's cover, revealing the word Zion written in childish handwriting. This was something he used for drawing and writing stories when he was little.
Okay, maybe I did use that notebook back then, But why do you have it?
He acknowledged it was his but looked puzzled. My grandson brought it to me when he visited recently.
What? Skylar always hated you.
Seeing his confusion, I explained the reason. This notebook was thrown into my house along with trash by my grandson. He had been playing in his father's study and found it there. At first, he enjoyed looking at the drawings his father had made as a child, but then he found horrifying writings. Shocked to see us mentioned, he took the notebook to his room, realizing he needed to tell me immediately. But feeling his father's watchful eyes, he devised a plan to act like he hated me to avoid suspicion. Skylar must have thought a lot about it.
That sneaky little brat.
Zion clicked his tongue and muttered to himself. I continued my story, unfazed. Skylar came to my house with his father, acting like he disliked me to stay under the radar. He waited for a chance to throw the notebook to me without his father noticing. I learned this from a call with my daughter-in-law, Margot, while I was preparing to flee. Skylar had confessed everything to his mother, who then called to apologize to me. He's only 8 years old. Imagine how hard it was for him.
I don't care. He did that on his own.
My heart ached thinking about Skylar, but Zion showed no concern, only spewing insults. I decided to confront Zion with the baton Skylar had handed me. This notebook contains terrifying things. Turning the pages, I showed Zion the detailed plan to send my husband and me to the afterlife.
This is just notes on a mystery drama I was into.
Zion avoided eye contact, looking up to the right. Interesting. But the circumstances of your father's death match what's written here. Strange, isn't it?
It's just a coincidence.
Oh. There's one difference. According to this plan, I was supposed to die too, but I survived. The notebook outlined a plan to drug us and stage an accident. It even detailed waiting for the car to crash. Zion got angry again.
You can't just accuse me based on this notebook. There's no real evidence.
I have evidence. I handed him a piece of paper. He snatched it from me, looking shocked. The thermos you gave me before the trip tested positive for sleeping pills.
What? That wasn't found among Dad's belongings. It should have been destroyed in the crash.
He looked stunned but then angrily questioned me. Actually, the thermos had been wedged in the back of the car seat, and the police had brought it to the hospital. I had avoided touching anything related to my memories with my husband, so I had kept the thermos as it was. When I saw my son's plan in the notebook, I remembered its existence. Though it only contained a little, I decided to rely on a faint hope and asked Margot, who works as a researcher for a pharmaceutical company, to examine it. It turned out that the thermos indeed contained drugs, and the components were clearly detected. Moreover, the drug is apparently the same one you were prescribed at the hospital, I said, showing him the prescription from his room.
You broke into my room.
Margot helped me.
Damn it. So you all are in on this together. What the hell do you think you're doing?
Zion stamped his feet in frustration, and I couldn't help but sigh at his childish behavior. But this was not the end. I presented another piece of paper to Zion, and as soon as he saw it, he was shocked, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. Your reason for trying to kill us was money, right? It was his loan agreement. He had started a company but lacked both business acumen and sense. He spent company money on drinking and entertainment, and Margot found his computer's ledger, showing it was a reckless mismanagement. The company had already gone bankrupt, and it was easy to imagine that the money we lent him had vanished in an instant. You wanted the inheritance, didn't you? I confronted him sternly, and he started laughing.
The first accident was supposed to take you both out. What a pity.
You weren't worried about coming to check on us. You were just waiting for a chance to kill me.
Of course. Otherwise, the inheritance wouldn't all go to me.
Without any remorse, Zion spoke matter-of-factly. I glared at him in anger, but he just continued to grin.
If you found out, there's nothing to do but kill you here and now.
He lunged at me in my wheelchair. At that moment, a voice shouted, "Stop," and the sliding door to the next room opened, revealing Margot and a male helper. He was quickly subdued. I'll report this to the police. I never thought I'd have to turn my own son over to them. It's so sad, I said.
Please, don't do that. Keep quiet about this. I'll take care of you for the rest of my life.
He cried, his face soaked with tears and snot. That's enough. I don't consider you my son anymore. I pushed him away, and he cried out like a child, wailing loudly. Just then, the police, whom Margot had called, arrived, and he was dragged away. Zion was arrested for this incident and sentenced to life behind bars. Margot filed for divorce, and I severed ties with Zion as his mother. Even if he were to be released in a few years, no one would be waiting for him anymore. As for me, I still maintain my bond with Margot and my grandson. Skylar, who always says he loves his grandma, pushes my wheelchair and takes me for walks. I continue my daily rehabilitation, aiming to walk again on my own feet and travel to various places with my husband's photo. How did you find today's story? Please subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.